Imagine this scenario. You've got a high potential employee sitting across from you. She's sharp, motivated, and already asking the dangerous question. What's next in my development? You smile, lean back, you say the words that sound responsible, enlightened, almost noble. We're going to start you on a job rotation. HR nods approvingly. But the rotation you just announced, it might be doing almost nothing for their development. In fact, according to decades of leadership research, it may be the least developmental option on the table. In a past video, we discussed the jobs that matter most for development. Today, we're going to talk about the jobs that matter least for development. We're also going to talk about the research, what it actually says, and most importantly, what works better in the real world. This research, of course, comes from Robert Etchinger, Michael Lombardo, and David Ulrich in their outstanding book, 100 Things You Need to Know, Best People Practices for Managers in HR. These researchers ask the hard questions, test them across organizations, industries, and decades, and then tell us how confident they are of the answer. And yes, there will be a quiz, but don't worry, no one's grading you. So here it is. What kind of jobs are likely to matter least for development? A, promotion to your boss's job. B, chair of a key task force. C, changing lines of business. D, job rotations, 3 to 6 months functional assignments. Or E, changing functions. The answer is D, job rotations, those 3 to 6 month functional assignments. And the authors aren't hedging here. This isn't a well, maybe sometimes situation. The research behind the answer is substantial, meaning research strongly supports the answer. And it flies directly in the face of what most organizations still assume about development. Here's the core idea, and it's very simple. Low stress plus low variety equals low development. Development doesn't happen when things are comfortable. It happens when you're out over your skis, making decisions before you feel ready, with real consequences attached. Let's walk through the options in the quiz. Promotion to your boss's job. This sounds intimidating, but the reality is you already know the players, you understand the problems, and you've been watching the role from the sidelines. Yes, there's pressure, but there's also familiarity. The risk of outright failure is usually low. Chair of a key task force. There's more stretch here, new content and new people, but to be honest, these task forces are usually stacked with experts. Guardrails everywhere. You'd have to try to crash the plane. Changing lines of business. New market, same job. You're still using the same skills and the same playbook, just with a different logo and slide deck. Changing functions. For example, think changing from a role in accounting to one in operations. Now this does introduce new novelty. You're learning a new language, new metrics, and new priorities. And crucially, you're doing a real job, not just observing one. That matters. Job rotations, 3 to 6 months. And here's the one that's least likely to matter for development. In most rotations, you're not really owning anything. You're observing, shadowing, and sampling. You're exposed, but not accountable. As one researcher bluntly put it, many rotations are glorified exposure experiences, which as academics speak for you're a tourist, not a resident. The Center for Creative Leadership has studied this for decades, and their conclusion is that the jobs with the highest learning value involve major shifts and challenges, multifunctional projects, and pressing organizational issues. Translation, real problems, real stakes, real deadlines, and real consequences. And guess what consistently showed up at the bottom of the list? Job rotations. They were visible, popular, and easy to organize, but rarely cited as truly developmental. Let's bring this into an actual workplace scenario. Imagine a fast-growing tech company. High-potential analyst rotates through marketing, finance, and operations, 2 months in each. They attend meetings, and they help with slide decks. At the end of the job rotation, they say, I learned a lot. But by that, what they usually mean is, I now recognize more acronyms. But compare that to someone else. Same company, another high-potential employee stays in their role, but gets assigned to lead a cross-functional project to fix a broken customer onboarding process. They're suddenly negotiating with IT, sales, legal, and customer success. Deadlines loom. They have to produce, and someone senior is always watching. That person develops faster, deeper, and more permanently. Why? Because the job demands it. Researchers Bray, Campbell, and Grant nailed this decades ago. They say most managerial leadership development happens on the job, not in classrooms or seminars. And early leadership experiences, they shape careers more than almost anything else. So why do rotations still exist? Good question. Well, they're easy, they're highly visible, and they look great on a brochure. And they feel developmental even when they're not. But if your goal is functional knowledge, targeted training works better. On-the-job learning, apprenticing in a real role works better. True understanding of how functions connect. Projects win every time. What do you do instead? Keep high potential people in their core role, but layer in stretch assignments such as focused task forces, high stakes projects, fix-it assignments, and strategic initiatives where there are new people, new problems, and new pressures, and new accountability. The business wins too because important and meaningful work actually gets done. Think of it this way. A job rotation is like sitting back watching a cooking show. A stretch assignment is like being handed the stove during dinner rush while the fire alarm is going off. In summary, if development comes from challenge, pressure, and newness, then the least development roles are the ones that feel safe, temporary, and consequence-free. So next time someone asks, what's next for my development? Don't just move them around the board. Change the game entirely.
John Paul here. If you like this video, check out the HR Insight YouTube channel where we have more videos just like this. Make sure to click subscribe so you get notifications.